Jake, the media never seems to amaze me, just their hypocrisy when they deal with it. So, pretend it was a police officer in your district defending, get into a little scuffle with some minority, right? How would they go after that police officer or law enforcement, right? But somehow we have a radical kid, and they like to call him a student. I'd like to see if he's really a student. I think he's 29 to 30, and he's still a student. But somehow is he living on campus and not pushing the radical agenda? Fully marches, anti-American, anti-Israel, and yet the media jumps to his defense, right? You don't have a free pass. I love the tweet you did yesterday too, because you said Khalil, Muhammad Khalil is a guest in our country. We must be able to disinvite pro-Hamas activists instead of backing law and order politicians like Tish James, Sen Schumer, Gov Hochul, Rep. Jeffries, and their radical allies, typical of themselves. And almost President Trump, was funny, but in one sense, he's almost true. Chuck Schumer, Jewish U.S. Senator, always supported by the Jewish community, he called him Palestinian yesterday. So what's going on with the Democrats? Man, they take the side of such radicals every time now, right?
It is truly shameful the way the members of the Democratic Party, especially here in New York, have taken to the sidelines, not the forefront of the fight against anti-Semitism. The individuals like Chuck Schumer, the senator, or Governor Kathy Hochul, or even Tish James, they offer lip service. They offer condolences and how shameful hate is. But when it comes to actually governing, actually fighting and protecting the citizens of New York, they're nowhere to be found. I stood on the steps of Columbia. I stood with those students. I watched the fear. 73% of students don't feel safe on their campuses here in New York. 5 schools have Fs in ratings on anti-Semitism. It is disgusting the way that we allow it to happen. We do not put strings on the funds we give these schools. We even allow state-funded schools like SUNYs and CUNYs to indoctrinate individuals just like this man. And then when they're here and they're residents and they get their green card, it's shameful to see what happens to them when they radicalize here because we do not act up.
I'm from a different generation, Jake, and I grew up east of Long Island too. But if we told this story 20 years ago, that there's a radical case, I call him a student still. I think he's 29 or 30, right? And they're allowing him, and they're not only allowing him, they're championing him. He's anti-Israel, holding protests nonstop, anti-American, and the media is championing him. And the Democrats are afraid to say anything against these radical groups. It's such a bad place we're in America. So I want to go to this cut because it's our own Nassau County executive pointing something out. He was on CNN show, Abby Phillips show at night, and did they go after him when he pointed something out? Watch this. Let's go to cut 7.
He came here on a student visa. He's paid by a terrorist organization that beheads babies. What evidence do you have? That beheads babies. Wait, I have evidence.
So I'm sorry, just to be clear, you're alleging that he's paid by. He's a
paid protester.
By who?
Well, I didn't ask my intelligence division exactly who paid for him, but he's being paid by. He's being paid.
That's a pretty explosive allegation. Who is he being paid by?
Can I ask you a question?
No, you said you had evidence. Who is he being paid by?
He's being paid by organizations that are anti-American, that are engaged in nefarious activities. I don't ask my intelligence division to give me...
Then don't come on national TV and say on things. Don't come on national TV.
Do you know who he's being paid by?
I don't, and I'm not alleging that he's being paid.
Are you okay with what he's doing?
I'm not alleging he's being paid by because I don't know.
Are you okay with anti-Semitism?
Wow. It's like there was 3 or 4 against 1, and Bruce Blakeman, just the county executive, pointed out he's probably a paid agitator, which is probably true. Same as the way during BLM riots, a lot of those people were paid agitators. A lot of times you see this craziness, and you can't understand why they have all these they're paid. You can find ads if you go on to Craigslist or other groups too. But this is what you have to deal with: a radical media fight against the county executive. Point. How did they know that he's not paid? Right?
Well, the reality is we don't have an answer to that question either way. But what I do know is there are individuals who are supported by organizations and groups who do pay for a lot of this messaging to go out. You see on TikTok and social media groups and individuals who pay influencers to have particular messaging on this topic. And it's important that we get disclosure in that. That's something I fight for on a state level. We need to make sure there's disclosure when there are paid actors in situations. This story will develop and we'll get a clearer picture as to who's right on that topic. But one thing is for sure, and I think the county executive said it best, are you okay with his actions? This individual is here on a green card at the pleasure of the United States of America. To earn those rights, to earn the ability to be a citizen, you cannot be here to agitate and produce fear and angst for students who are on campus and just trying to get the education they pay for, an education that we as a state often subsidize for many individuals. It's important that we focus on what's really happening here, which is we're creating exceptions to the rule, which is no hate, especially anti-Semitism, is acceptable. And just because Trump says something doesn't mean the opposite is correct. And unfortunately, the left fall into that trap time and time again.